seats aboard the Stout.
If they can make it as we venture.
One man is in charge of 5,000 people, 2 nuclear reactors, 70 fighter jets, and a floating city measuring 3 football fields. And here's the thing. He's not an admiral. Let's get into it. Chapter 1. The most powerful job you have never thought about. The aircraft carrier is the mightiest warship ever to be designed by human hands. It is not a mere ship. It is a weapon, a city, an airbase, and a nuclear power plant, all in one giant made of steel, costing over $13 billion to construct. Yet here we find something which most persons never consider. The whole machine, all the reactors, all the jets, all the sailors, all are ultimately in the hands of a single officer. The commanding officer. The captain. Not an admiral, not a committee. A man or woman who has complete, utter power. In the world of that officer we are going in today. The cabin they sleep in. The food they eat. The authority that they possess. The 25-year journey they went through simply to get that chair. And the burden of the responsibility which never, not once, not in any degree, quits their shoulders. It is not simply a privilege narrative. It is a narrative of what the real meaning is of being the best in the most rigorous military organization on Earth. Chapter 2. The beast they command. And then, before we discuss the captain, you should know what exactly they are commanding. Since when you see the big picture, the burden of that job will sink in. About 1,100 feet long is a Nimitz-class or Gerald R. Ford-class nuclear carrier. It is even taller than the Empire State Building. It displaces more than 100,000 tons of water. It is powered by 2 nuclear reactors which generate 110 megawatts of power each. A sufficient amount of electricity to serve a mid-size American city. Jets alone on its flight deck are launched off catapults at 165 miles per hour in less than 3 seconds. Around the clock, day and night, in all weather conditions. Below the flight deck is a population of about 5,000 people. Cooks, doctors, dentists, lawyers, nuclear engineers, IT specialists, firefighters, chaplains, mechanics, pilots, and intelligence analysts. It has numerous cafeterias, gyms, a post office, a TV station, radio station, a chapel, and a complete hospital. The vessel is transporting nearly 2 million gallons of jet fuel. It holds tons of live ordnance. It operates 18 different departments. The senior officers head each department. All those officers report up the chain to an individual. The captain. That is what he wakes up to each and every morning, and herein lies what renders it still further staggering. He is personally and legally liable for each and every action that occurs on that ship. When a sailor commits a mistake, the captain is accountable. In case of aircraft crash, the captain is liable. In case the ship runs aground, which has ended over 100 naval careers in U.S. history, the captain is answerable. The right to command and the responsibility to command cannot be separated. There is no way you can have one without the other. Now we have to discuss where exactly the captain is living, because this is where things get interesting. In an average deployment, an enlisted sailor will sleep in a rack. The length of that rack is about 6 feet, and the breadth of it is 2. It is packed 3 high in a berthing compartment that is shared with as many as 120 other sailors. Privacy is provided by a small curtain. That is it. Junior officers perform a bit better. The stateroom occupied by 2 to 6 officers is on average a walk-in closet size. In the captain there is an object that by comparison would be nearly inconceivable on a warship. He has 2 personal cabins. The former is referred to as the in-port cabin. This is his main stateroom. A small house with a bedroom, a sitting room that doubles up to an office, private bathroom, sink, shower and toilet, a large desk, uniform locker, and space to hold small meetings. It is small in comparison with any hotel room on the ground, but in a warship it is the most comfortable place on the whole ship. The sea cabin is the second cabin. This one is right next to the bridge, the command center of the ship. And it is willfully Spartan. Nothing but a bunk, a desk, and a simple toilet. The reason is easy and grave. When anything happens to the ship at sea, for example, there is a weather emergency, there is a navigation problem, there is a threat, the captain must be on that bridge within less than 30 seconds. It is possible with the help of the sea cabin. Yes, the captain has the most private, the most comfortable quarters on the ship. However, those quarters are not there to relax. They are there so that no one on the ship who is of the highest value ever wastes a second getting back to work. There is also a personal steward to the captain, a sailor who is enlisted and whose duty is to maintain the cabin, keep it clean, and ensure that the basic day-to-day needs of the captain are met. Chapter 4. Why the captain must eat alone in an aircraft carrier. The officers dine in a dining area known as the wardroom. It is a formal dining room where commissioned officers have their meals. It has tablecloths, silver, stewards to serve the meals, and a degree of formality which is in keeping with naval custom. Second in command is the executive officer, who is usually the mess president. He is the head of the wardroom. This is the interesting bit. The captain is not a regular member of the wardroom. It is a tradition and by design that the commanding officer is requested as a special guest on special occasions. In other cases, he has his meals alone, in his cabin, or at his little table. Meals are brought to him by his steward. It is not a question of ego or luxury. It is regarding the character of command authority. When the captain dines daily with his officers, the small talk, the easy feeling, the natural relations men have with each other, all these would gradually obliterate the distinction between the captain and all his subordinates. And in a warship, that line can never be lost. The CEO and the rest of the crew should always have a respectful distance between them. And the separate meals of the captain are really a part of the discipline and organization that holds 5,000 people together and mission ready. The food is good as such. Carrier food is typically of solid quality and with a variety of food being served at each meal. However, the captain does not eat fancy food. He is taking the same quality of food as his senior officers take, just privately. Chapter 5. The 25-year path to the chair. It is here that the tale of the carrier captain becomes truly remarkable. No one enters into this occupation. No one is hastened into it. The career trajectory that leads to commanding a nuclear aircraft carrier is among the most challenging career paths in the US military as a whole, and probably in any trade on Earth. It begins with a service academy or officer candidate school, usually in the early 20s of a person's life. Thereafter, the officer should be able to gain his or her wings as a naval aviator, a training pipeline that lasts more than a year and filters out a large percentage of applicants. It is after that that the officer should develop a career in various command tours. The fighter squadron is under their command. Then, they get to be an executive officer on a carrier. Then, when they are chosen, they are assigned their own carrier command. That process of selection is brutal. Consideration of hundreds of qualified Navy captains is done annually. Only a few are selected. The selection board considers performance reports that go as far back as 25 years. 1 week tour. One moment where leadership failed. One time where outcomes were below par. That can destroy the career of an otherwise excellent officer. And the training is not confined to selection. The incoming CO is required to undergo training in nuclear power at the Naval Nuclear Power School in South Carolina before he or she assumes command of a nuclear carrier. Although they may never have laid a wrench on a reactor directly, even though they may have lived their whole career as a naval aviator, they must know nuclear propulsion at an in-depth technical level. Since they are ultimately in charge of those reactors, by the time a captain steps on the carrier, he or she has spent a lifetime of 25 to 30 years earning that moment. One of the former carrier's CO mentioned command as follows: There is no moment of this tour one can get out of the toils of command responsibility. Everything is in that line. The cabin, the steward, the intimate meals, all of it is as nothing in comparison with what he is carrying, hour by hour, day by day. Chapter 6. The absolute power of command. Let us discuss the real power which a carrier captain possesses, since it far exceeds what most civilians are aware of. In accordance with U.S. law, the commanding officer of an aircraft carrier should be a captain, as well as a qualified naval aviator. Another carrier has several other senior officers in it. The executive officer is a captain. The air wing head is also a captain. The reactor officer is a captain. Nevertheless, there is only a single individual who is referred to as the captain. There is only one that has command authority. The captain is the only authority on the ship who has the power to convene a court-martial of any person on board. Not only the company of his ship, but all the sailors, pilots, and officers of all the units aboard that ship. He has the power to bypass the disciplinary authority of squadron commanders. His final say on that ship is final. In this case, when the ship is at sea, there is no phone call to make to seek a second opinion. No committee to consult. The captain decides. And the ship replies. He also has control over one of the 11 nuclear-powered aircraft carriers in existence. These are not only weapons, they are national policy instruments. When a carrier strike group enters an area, the governments pay attention. The presence of the carrier sends a message without the firing of a single shot. And this is a thing which has weight. The carrier captain is not allowed to take a break from that power. Not at dinner, not at midnight, not on Christmas. When that ship is at sea, command never sleeps. Chapter 7. A day in the life, 24 hours on the bridge. So, what does a normal day really entail for the carrier captain? It starts early. By the time the majority of the crew is fully awake, the captain would have already read the overnight reports. Navigation updates. Any safety incidents. Weather changes. Air traffic logs. He sits with the navigator, the operations officer, and the air boss to discuss the flight schedule to be covered on the day. The activity of flight operations on a carrier is a perpetual beat. Jets launch. Jets recover. Fuel trucks move. Ordnance is staged. Aircraft are maintained. This cycle is continuous, sometimes even at night. All of it is followed by the captain. The captain walks around the ship all day long. This is no empty gesture. It is a leadership practice, which is intentional. A carrier CEO who merely sits on the bridge or in the cabin quickly becomes disconnected with the human reality of 5,000 people living in close quarters under constant stress. The walkarounds allow the captain to stay in touch with morale, with issues that have not yet reached official reports, with the sailors who do the daily work upon which all the rest depends. The captain also has formal meetings with the department heads, reviews personnel issues, makes administrative decisions, approves or oversees major operational movements, and is in communication with the admiral and the rest of the strike group. And then when flight operations are carried on during the night, as they frequently are, the captain is on hand. The sea cabin exists because availability is not a choice. One of the carrier's CO explained it in a straightforward manner. The job will require 24 hours a day and 7 days a week throughout the duration of the command tour, approximately 18 to 24 months. Upon completion, the majority of captains claim it was the best experience they had in their career. The dignity of being invited to call on board a nuclear aircraft carrier years after retirement and the honor of still being called captain remain in the memory of their contemporaries and likely their descendants as a matter of record. The aircraft carrier captain lives in the most private cabin on the ship, takes his meals alone, not with his crew, holds absolute power over 5,000 individuals, and bears upon his shoulders the full burden of a national asset of $13 billion. Every hour, every day, without pause. The privilege becomes a reality. It is, however, gained through a life of service, sacrifice and preparation of which very few people on the planet are even willing to see through. These are the men and women who are watching, day and night, in each and every ocean on the globe. They do not want to be recognized. They do not ask for thanks. They are simply bearers of the burden. And now you have an idea of what that weight really feels like. In case you have learned something today, then like and subscribe so that you will never miss such a story again. And tell us in the comments, would you wish for the responsibility of having to command a nuclear aircraft carrier? We shall meet you next time.